So most years around this time of year, I give a sermon that's sort of general pastoral advice on surviving and thriving during the holidays. This complicated season we're all about to go through that can be joyful and stressful and festive and stressful and comforting and stressful. And well, you get the idea, right? We've barely cleaned up the candy wrappers from Halloween. We're still polishing off the last crumbs of pumpkin pie. And there it is, coming in through like the car stereo or overhead at the CVS. For the first time in many months, the opening chimes of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. And we know that means the holiday season is upon us again, and all that it brings with us, cheerfully maddening and maddeningly cheerful. So most every year I preach this kind of general take care of yourself kind of sermon for December. And if you were at my ordination, you know that the Reverend Marian Macklin preached to me of the virtues of repetition as a minister. So I'm fine with this predictability, but I don't want to be too repetitive. So in preparation for this sermon, I went back and I read what I shared last December. And last December, I preached a message that in my heart of hearts, I truly hoped would be unique and not repeated. Because last Christmas, the message was all about making it through our first holiday season in COVID times. And I truly believed that surely it would be our only holiday season in this wretched pandemic. And well, here we are. Right? If you've been watching the numbers, you know that Indiana is well into a fifth surge now. The numbers are very high in the last week. They have jumped much higher. Hospitalizations are up. Deaths, unfortunately, are up. And I know we're all just kind of like tired and worn down by this, right? And meanwhile, this is a season for travel and a season for being indoors at parties and with family, many of whom have also been traveling. And so we have to navigate again those difficult questions. What feels safe? What feels risky? Now, how do we navigate setting boundaries with friends and loved ones when everyone has a different idea of what feels safe and what feels risky, and different expectations about how we might get together? It's the same questions we are dealing with last season all over again. And I cannot tell you how much I hate that we are still talking about this and not more important holiday questions like whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Or Love Actually, is it good? Is it terrible? Is it both, right? That's what I want to talk about. So I'll just affirm for everyone, in case you need to hear it, that you have a right to set your boundaries. And it is okay to say no to events that you are not personally comfortable with. And if you, like many people, are managing the cumulative exposure that you're okay with, it's okay to say no to some things so you can say yes to other things. And finally, recognizing that nothing in life is perfectly safe. In most situations, there are choices that we can make that are safer, right? And safer is good. Safer is good. So recognizing that we're under this extra stress, and we're facing maybe these extra constraints around what we can and can't do with our holidays, I invite you to reflect ahead of the holidays on what is really important to you this holiday season. And I don't mean not just like the things that are really important in that kind of cliched Hallmark way we're supposed to remember what's important around the holidays, but what are the things that are specifically important to you, right? And for the people who are close to you, who may be companioning you through this holiday season, maybe have some intentional conversation about what is specifically important to them. Because this may not be the year to try to recreate the glories or the glorious messes of holidays past. This may be the year to simplify, to let go of extraneous things, to lower the level of expectations, and then to ask, what do I really want? And what do I really need? Give yourself a little quiet time to attend to the messages first being sent by your own body. What does your body need this holiday season? Does it need to go dancing, or does it need a nap? What does your heart need, really? The answer might not be what you first expect. In our reading today, Reverend Megan shared about the dangers of asking for something you don't really want, right? She wanted to be treated like an adult. She got a bike. She says, the things that you announce that you want have a way of finding you. We have a lot of voices telling us what we're supposed to want at this time of year, but what do you actually want? And Reverend Megan says, if the things you really want seem too impossible or silly or half-formed in your own heart to say, consider saying them anyway. If you name the things you're hoping for, they might kind of inch on over closer to you. Things you announce you want have a way of finding you. She says you probably won't say you want a bike. You might say, I want more time with my kids. I want more time with my parents. I want to forgive my father. I want to get along with my sister. I want to live my life more simply. Or, I just wish I had more time to play. I want to tell my parents that the only subject I like in school is art. I want to do work that has always called me, she says. Simplify. Simplify. This may not be the year to do all the things. So what does your heart want? And what does your body need? And if you were going to say to yourself, this month, this holiday season, I will handle myself with care. I will handle myself with care. What would that mean? What would that look like? So many demands around the holidays, so many expectations, so many commitments. Can we make a commitment this season to handle ourselves with care? Even if that means that the things we ask for look different. Even if it means the things we do look different, that life looks a little different. So regarding handling ourselves with care, there's a few things that I say every year that I'll say again in case someone needs to hear them. So first, if your family is mean and crappy to you, you don't have to see them. Your chosen family is beautiful. You are beautiful. Celebrate the holidays with the people who love and respect you. If you're feeling isolated or depressed, please reach out to someone because the holidays can amplify those feelings. And it's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be sad. And it's okay to ask for help about those things. If you're in need of some extra financial assistance around the holidays, the UUI discretionary fund may be able to help with things like groceries or utility bill or warm clothes for the winter. Again, please reach out. And finally, if you're grieving this holiday season, be extra gentle with yourself. Offer your body plenty of rest. Take the breaks that you need. Your sorrow can make you feel out of place and isolated amidst all the kind of enforced mandatory cheer of the holidays. But you're not out of place. You're just grieving. So reach out to a friend, reach out to your church, or even, dare I say, your minister, and be gentle with yourself. And then can we be gentle with others as well this holiday season? Because in some sense, we are all still grieving, right? We've all gone through and we're all going through this collective trauma together, this pandemic, this upheaval, and so we all need extra care. Can we commit this season to handle others with care as well? Because care is in short supply right now. One of the things I'm feeling this holiday season, as we enter this season that is supposed to be about hope and love, is how beaten up our hearts all seem to be by this so very difficult last year. I'm feeling how edgy and anxious and suspicious we have become as a people, how quick to judgment and anger. If I was going to name something on my wish list, the thing that I was going to ask for, it would be, I wish we could all be better to each other. I wish our hearts could open to one another just a little. Because last winter, there was still a sense that we were like waiting things out, right? There was a light at the end of the tunnel, and it would surely come at spring, it would surely come at summer, and now we know that things are going to be much more complicated than that, right? Things are going to be messier and more uncertain as this pandemic settles into an endemic, and we have to learn to live with this thing that is not going anywhere anytime soon, if ever. And one of the things that has been tragically lost, if indeed we ever had it, is the sense that we are all going through this pandemic together, that we are all in this thing together. Indeed, the pandemic and how we respond to it has become one more thing to divide us, one more thing to be polarized about, one more thing to be politicized, one more thing to be snarky or mean or judgmental about on the internet. But we are all in this together. We don't have to like or respect one another's choices. We may harbor the suspicion that our neighbor is making things worse. We're all in this together anyway. We just are. The people whose choices we dislike are not going to magically choose otherwise by the sheer force of our disdain. Nor are they going to relocate to some other place where we don't have to deal with them. Nor are we going to relocate. Nor will we be spared the consequences of our own choice to be disdainful, to be suspicious, to isolate, even to hate. Because that choice, if we make it, lives in our hearts, lives in our bodies, and we must live with it too. So as practitioners, as professors, as sometimes proclaimers of this very challenging and demanding thing called Unitarian Universalism, we're called to a different choice. We're called to a different way of being in the world. And we're called first to curiosity, And it is sometimes easier for me to be curious about a plant or a bug or a galaxy than another person, than my neighbor. But everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone is going through a thing right now that would break your heart if you knew about it. Everyone. And most everyone is doing the best that they can. We don't have to agree with one another, to listen to one another's stories, and to grant one another a complexity and a humanity that is not reducible to the kinds of labels that we are encouraged to slap on each other: liberal and conservative, Democrat and Republican, urban and rural, vaxxer and anti-vaxxer, fascist and commie, heathen and fundamentalist, right? As practitioners of this thing called Unitarian Universalism, and it is a practice, it's a daily habit we're trying to build, a muscle we're trying to strengthen. And it's a matter of try and try again, but as practitioners of this thing called Unitarian Universalism, we're called to humility. We're called to humility about the limits of our own knowledge because we don't know all the things, and we don't know what we don't know. We hew to science as best we can. We try to educate ourselves and reason as carefully as we can. And our faith asks us to make a responsible search for truth. And the word responsible is in there because beliefs have consequences, right? And the choices we make have consequences for others and for our community. But part of being responsible is knowing our own limits. So we should be humble and open to new truth, and open to different ways of seeing the world, and open to the idea that we might be wrong about this thing that we're very sure that we are right about. Meanwhile, we're navigating all these choices about how we keep our kids safe, and how we keep ourselves safe, and how we keep our economy going, and how we keep our schools and our churches and our restaurants and our businesses open, how and when we can be together. And we're trying to base all these decisions on this shifting data that we only get incompletely, and most of us are not trained to understand it to begin with, and it changes all the time. So let's be humble about our own conclusions, and let's be curious about those of others. And when we have to, call one another back into that responsible search for truth. Say we have to point out that a purported scientific fact is not actually a fact, or that a rumor is just a rumor, or that a source is actually not reliable. Let us call us back into community mildly and respectfully, remembering the limits of our own knowledge. And finally, as Unitarian Universalists, We are called to love our neighbor. And that's not easy. That's not easy. The good news is it doesn't mean we have to like our neighbor. It doesn't mean we can't have boundaries and practice self-care with regards to our neighbor. It does mean that we have to handle our neighbor with care, just as we handle ourselves with care. It means holding in our hearts the truth that we're all just trying to get across that road together safely, and the rain will never stop falling. It means knowing at a deep level that we are all in this together and we need each other. We need each other. And the only way we get through this is if we learn how to handle one another with care. Not just ourselves, not just the people we love, not just the people we agree with, not even just the people who are good to us. All of us. All of us. Good self-care is a practice. It is cultivating the habit of paying attention to one's own needs, to listening to one's body and mind and heart, and treating oneself as a being worthy of care. And care for others is also a practice. It's also a habit of paying attention to the people around you and to the community you are in. It is treating others as worthy of care. And once we are paying attention, the good news is we have a whole arsenal of tools we can employ in caring for others. Generosity, kindness, listening, helping, a smile, a hug, a song, a donation, a meal, a ride, a safe place, a vote, a conversation, shared laughter, shared joy, shared music, shared tears. So many tools, so many gifts, so many ways to handle one another with care. Our Universalist tradition says in the end, we are saved by love. The world can be hard. The world encourages us to harden our hearts. And the world is also tender and beautiful, and love invites our hearts to be open. So may we be open to the mysterious workings of love this holiday season. May we handle ourselves with care and then handle everyone else with care as well. As the poet says, we're not going to be able to live in this world if we're not willing to do this with one another. And it's a beautiful world, and we could be beautiful to one another. Blessed be, and amen.